Hello and welcome to Continuing Clockwise, a channel about games, gamers, and gaming. I'm Chad. Today we're going to talk about role-playing, both in the first person, where you describe what your character does using I statements, or simply by speaking in your character's voice, like an actor, and in the third person, where you describe what your character does using he, she, they, or whatever. Henry opens the chest and looks inside. While referring to yourself in the third person can be pretty weird, Chad has a YouTube channel. In a role-playing game context, it's very normal and very common. Some players and groups strongly prefer that you stay in the first person as much as possible. At its most extreme, you would only use the third person when you're describing game mechanics, for example. And I generally agree with this point of view. It really does increase immersion and keeps the group focused to stay in first person as much as possible. On the other hand, there's a kind of elitism in there. Not all players are comfortable performing. Not all players really want to stay in character to that degree. And some games, especially those with strong storytelling elements, really lean more towards using the third, because players are also describing things that happen in the story beyond just their character's actions. Like I said, I prefer staying in the first person as much as possible, but there's a few situations that arise where I actually think it's a better choice to go into the third person. The first is if you want your character to be kind of bossy or kind of a jerk. This is already a bit of a risky proposition that can cause real problems at the table. At the same time, there can be a pretty good payoff. It can be fun to have characters who bicker with one another and have disagreements. Sometimes you might want to demonstrate that your character is really anxious because of something that's happening in the game. There are a lot of legitimate reasons to have your character want to act like a bit of a jerk. And you can soften that by just shifting into the third person and describing it rather than acting it out. It's a way to get the best of both worlds. If I look at my fellow player and say, I think you're being stupid, you should follow my plan, versus Tanis looks at Boromir condescendingly, insults his intelligence, and reiterates that he'd rather do something else. See what I mean? The third person adds some distance and makes it a little less intense, which can be a good thing. Another reason to use the third person is that some characters are frankly just smarter and more charming than their players. Part of the fun for a role-playing game is playing characters who are better than we are in some way. And I don't think it's fair to penalize players because their characters are smarter or more charming. I've also experienced moments in games when I'm tired, maybe because it's late or I didn't sleep well the night before, and we're in a long, complicated negotiation. It's a lot of discussion at the table, and another player has a recommendation or a suggestion for what I should ask for in the negotiation. And what I wanted to do was just tell the DM, yes, that. I want to do that. What he just said, that. So actually, there were 2 times this happened with 2 different DMs, and both DMs were very strong, generally speaking, but I was irritated by this one thing. Both DMs made me then act it out in character. And that just really wasn't fun for me. Now, what's important as a DM is to make the player's intentions really crystal clear. Absolutely. That's something that all DMs should be doing all the time. But I think it takes the fun away to require players to role play every situation. So what do you think? Do you like to stay in the first person, or would you rather just narrate what your character does? What other factors should people consider about when they're deciding to use I statements or they statements or he or she statements? If you like this video, please click the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Until next week, game great.